Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Mr. Douglas Sports Show. I am your host as always, Corey Douglas, and I am getting ready and prepared for a great championship weekend with two great matchups. We got one GOAT Bowl between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and then we got the Youngster Bowl over here with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully Patrick Mahomes will play. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I want to start off this episode by going over the divisional round matchups. When you look at what transpired over this past weekend, I think everything went according to the way I thought it was going to go. Of course, I'll go 4-0 with the picks. But starting with the Los Angeles Rams going to the Green Bay Packers, of course, this matchup was a matchup that was hyped up as the number one defense versus the number one offense. And then the game within the game was the Jalen Ramsey versus Davante Adams matchup. I'll just start with that matchup right there. That didn't necessarily live up to the hype. Number one, they didn't get matched up a whole lot in that game. But then Davante Adams did get him for the 1-yard touchdown, which was a great play design by Matt LaFleur. You know, he sends Davante across the motion or across the formation and then sends him right back. And Jalen Ramsey is in man-to-man coverage there. And it was impossible for him to get over to Davante on the second motion. So he gets the 1-yard touchdown. And of course, Jalen Ramsey got a lot of heat of that because, as you saw after the play, he was upset about that one. But there's really nothing he could do about that. There was a lack of communication in that situation. The guy, when he motioned back, should have went outside to Davante, so it wasn't up to Jalen Ramsey there. But regardless, that was a touchdown. But this game was just a legendary GOAT quarterback being legendary in Hall of Fame material there. You have Aaron Rodgers going 23 of 36, 296 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, where he just pump faked the soul out of a defender, Leonard Floyd. And this game was really impressive on the Packers' part to me, because the way they came out and set the tone on defense, forcing a quick 3 and out, but then on offense against the number one offense against the number one defense, and they score on their first 5 possessions. It goes field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and that put the Rams in a 15-point hole that they could never quite dig out of. So the Packers are advancing to the NFC Championship game for the second year in a row. First 2 years under Matt LaFleur, which has a lot of ties back to Dallas because, of course, we have the Packers' former coach, and all the Packers have done since he left is gone 26-6 and made it to 2 straight NFC Championship games, and Aaron Rodgers is having more fun than he's had over the past few years. So that, like I said, that draws back to Dallas and gives me even more concern with Mike McCarthy as head coach. But anyways, moving on to the second game on Saturday night. It was the Baltimore Ravens against the Buffalo Bills. And I got to be honest with you, this game went just about as I expected. I said last week that I trusted Josh Allen more than I trusted Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, to me, is still Giannis Antetokounmpo. And when it gets to playoff time, his limitations really come out. And against a solid Bills defense, that's exactly what happened. The Ravens are only able to muster 3 points. They did miss 2 field goals. But the Bills missed 2 field goals as well. The Ravens lose 17-3. And I think what this game came down to is the fact that Lamar Jackson, when his number was called, when he had a chance to tie the game at 10, and they're down there in the red zone, he throws a pick 6. And that's what gave the Buffalo Bills the 17-3 lead. And from that point, it was really game over. There was no chance. And then Lamar Jackson gets knocked out of the game late. And some backup that I've never heard of comes in. And he plays all right to me. But obviously, it wasn't enough to put any points on the board. And that is why the Baltimore Ravens are going home. And then when you look inside the numbers, the Ravens actually outgained the Buffalo Bills 340 yards to 220 yards. But they went 0-3 in the red zone, which obviously you can't do that if you want to be successful in the playoffs. But this is going to be something else that I'm monitoring on the Buffalo side, is their lack of ability to run the ball. Is putting a lot of pressure on Josh Allen. And when you go on the road in the playoffs and you have that much pressure as a quarterback, it kind of can catch up to you. But like I said, I'll get to that more in a little bit. But like I said, now it's time to go to Sunday's game. The first game was the Cleveland Browns versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And the talk coming into this one, which style of football would win? Is KC going to be rusty? And they came out, KC did, and they showed no rust. And this is a game that was close, 22-17, the final score. But this is not a game that was close, as close as the scoreboard indicates. When you go back and look at the drive-by-drive comparisons, KC was getting ready to run away with that game before Patrick Mahomes went down with, I don't know whether it was a concussion, a stinger, something. I mean, something was up with him, obviously. His legs basically melted, and he gets taken off the field, is currently in concussion protocol, and we'll get to that a little bit more in just a second. But like I said, this game was not as close as the final score indicated. And the biggest play out of this game is obviously the Rashad Higgins fumble at the one touchback. And obviously there's a lot of complaints as far as the rule, that being a touchback when you fumble the ball inside the red zone and it goes out of the end zone, you give the opposing team the ball. And I saw a lot of complaints, more so than I was expecting, really. And to that I say, don't fumble the football. I don't have a problem with that rule. I don't think there's a problem with that rule. You know, when you don't fumble the football, you don't have to worry about situations like that. And then the second side of that was the helmet-to-helmet contact that they had on that play by the safety Sorensen for the Chiefs. A lot of people want to make helmet-to-helmet reviewable in the NFL. I personally don't think that is feasible, just because you'll be reviewing every play that goes on in the game. There is helmet-to-helmet contact literally on, I would say, 90 to 95% of plays. So you can't review that in the NFL. That's a bit ridiculous to me. But regardless of the fact, Kansas City was a better team on this particular day, and that is why they are moving on to their third straight AFC Championship game. Then going off into the second game on Sunday, which was Tom Brady versus Drew Brees, the Bucs versus the Saints. Of course, last time the Saints and Bucs matched up, the Saints got the Bucs 38-3. And obviously everybody that knew coming into this game that was not going to be the case this week. And that wasn't the case. And I think what I took away most from this game is obviously when the Saints had 4 turnovers, the Bucs had none. So as an NFL team, it's hard to win games when you turn the ball over 4 times and the opposing team doesn't turn the ball over at all. But I think something that we've seen from Tom Brady over the years, and what makes him the greatest winner in NFL history at quarterback, is just the ability to do what the game takes. And I think this game was a perfect example of that. Yeah, when you look down at his stats, 18 of 33, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. They're not that impressive. But when you look at the way he controls the game and just does what the game asks him to do. So in this week, it was, okay, so Drew Brees, as we found out later, was dealing with a torn rotator cuff most of the season, still dealing with all the fractured ribs and a couple other injuries. Brady saw that Brees didn't have it. He saw that, he's turned the ball over. So Brady knew right off the mind, it was like, all right, so all I got to do for this game, my defense is playing well. I just need to manage the game just to not make that mistake. And of course, the Bucs still probably lose if Antoine Winfield Jr. doesn't make an outstanding play on Jared Cook going across the middle, forcing a fumble, which set the Bucs up when they were down 20-13 to tie the game at 20. And then another big play on the ensuing Buccaneers drive was the Johnson catch on 3rd and 11 for 14 yards. He goes up and snags it just with his fingertips, which is a huge play, and let the Bucs go on to eventually go down the field and kick a field goal to take the lead 23-20. And then another Drew Brees pick set it up to make it 30-20. The Bucs move on, and Tom Brady gets another road playoff win and now heads to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers. All right, and speaking of those conference games, let's go ahead and get right into those. Of course, the first game on Sunday is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Of course, this is a rematch from Week 6 where the Bucs beat the Packers 38-10 after the Packers jumped out to a 10-0 lead. This was by far the worst game that Aaron Rodgers played in this MVP season of his. And the big reason why he struggled in this game was that Tampa Bay really came after him with Levante David at linebacker and with Devin White at linebacker. They blitzed him. And in those blitzes, Rodgers only was able to complete 5 of 14 passes for 61 yards, no touchdown, and the 2 picks that he threw on the day. And now for Rodgers' great career, he's actually thrown 8 touchdowns versus 9 interceptions against the Bucs. This is the only team that he's thrown more interceptions against than touchdowns. So this is a really intriguing matchup. But I think what ultimately is going to decide this game is that the Bucs offense against the Saints did not play particularly well. But at the same time, I don't think the Green Bay defense is as good. I look at the other side with Aaron Rodgers going against the Bucs defense. There's not going to be anything that they're going to be able to bring to Aaron Rodgers this week that's going to catch him off sides, as far as like the blitzes that they brought in week 6 or just the different looks that they were doing. And I think they're in a much better rhythm. They have a lot more confidence. And that is why I am taking the Green Bay Packers to beat the Bucs. And I am going to say this game is going to be like a 31-24 type of game. I don't see the Bucs being able to limit Davante Adams enough. And I don't see them being able to stop Aaron Rodgers. When you go from Drew Brees, a washed Drew Brees, to an MVP level Aaron Rodgers, that's the difference to me. And that's why I say the Packers are going to beat the Bucs. Then in the AFC, you have the Buffalo Bills going to Kansas City, and this is also a rematch. The Chiefs and Bills played earlier this season on a Monday afternoon. The Chiefs beat the Bills 26-17. And that game was all about the run game for the Chiefs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 161 rushing yards, which was by far the most he had in a game this season. And the Bills were outgained by the Chiefs 466 to 206 yards. And I think this game obviously comes down to the health of Patrick Mahomes, which I think he'll be out there. But I think another storyline that's not being talked about as much, because obviously concussion, once you start talking about concussions in the NFL, that is the story. But what you also can't forget is that Patrick Mahomes, along with having a clear concussion protocol, which I think all signs are pointing to him being able to do so before Sunday's game. He's practiced both Wednesday and Thursday, and I expect him to practice again today on Friday. But he's also dealing with a toe injury. The mobility of Patrick Mahomes, what would that be like? When you see a lot of Patrick Mahomes' success, you see a lot of broken plays, you see him being able to extend a lot of plays, which is crucial to just the off-schedule plays is crucial to the Chiefs' offense. And then on the flip side, when you look at Buffalo, can they figure out a way to be able to run the football? The Chiefs defense is not very strong against the run, but the Bills are not very strong running the football. They had an NFL record low of 2 rushing attempts in the first half against Baltimore, so they didn't even try to run the ball in that game, which I don't necessarily blame them after Baltimore shut down Derrick Henry to 40 or less yards. But I think that's what this game comes down to. If the Bills are able to run the football, I think they can win this game. But I don't think they'll be determined enough to run the football. I think they'll put a lot of pressure on Josh Allen, and I think Josh Allen makes 1 or 2 more mistakes than Patrick Mahomes does, which is why I think the Chiefs win this football game on Sunday and head to their back-to-back Super Bowls, looking to defend their title in Tampa Bay against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. So that's my prediction. Green Bay versus KC. We'll see how it all shakes out this weekend. That's going to do it for episode 33 of the Mr. Douglass Sports Show. Until next time, salute.